welcome to this Tuesday's Title Tuesday. I'm so excited to be hosting this. My name is Anna Kramling. I'm Woman Field Master Anna Kramling, and I'm going to be hosting this Tuesday's Title Tuesday. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I typically play myself in it, but I will be commentating it today with you guys, and I'm super excited. It's starting in a bit less than 2 minutes, so we are gonna go ahead and check the format and prices, but it's going to be super awesome. So here we have the format of the tournament. It's a 11 round Swiss, and it's every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific or 7 p.m. 10 a.m. Pacific or 7 p.m. CT. So it's 3 minutes with a 1 second increment. That's the time control of the tournament. Very short time. As a Title Tuesday experienced player, I know how difficult it is to play with just 1 second increment. So it's very, very short time. And and here we have the tie breaks. It's not split prices, but they're tie breaks basically. And here we're gonna see the prices as well. So the first place today will be getting $750, second place $400, third place $150, fourth place $100, best female $100, and best stream $100 as well. So it's a full $1,600 in prices, and it's going to be really awesome. So lots of prizes. And yeah, we're gonna be getting this starting very soon. We got 584 players, and I'm sure that even more players will be joining very, very soon. Highest ranked up is Hikaru. He's participating. I wasn't sure if he was gonna participate because he just joined last minute, it said. And then we have Diak Bogdan, who's a really strong grandmaster from Romania. Got his grandmaster title at 14, but we're gonna go ahead and get started with Hikaru's game, who's just starting and playing as international master Steka. So we're gonna go ahead and see how this is going. So yeah, this is sort of like a ready opening. This is really interesting that he's trying to get his knight to h4. He's coming back now when the bishop is attacking it. Okay, they're getting the knight out. Here I would say that one of the ideas, the reason why he's getting his knight out here typically is because he wants to get his knight to e3 and centralize it. c3, d4, trying to get some center, and h4 is always a really cool move. Look at Hikaru's knights here. Look at Hikaru's knights. Look at this. Wait, this is pretty awesome what he's doing here. This is kind of the thing that, you're always taught that you shouldn't really do, but to put the knights like this, but this is really awesome. And I would say that the idea with this is that he wanted to push f4, and he just didn't feel like the knight was better placed anywhere else, because if it went to d2, then the pawn was on d3 hanging. So that's why this was actually one of the only places the knight could go if he wanted to push f4. And he's gonna come back with this knight, and I'm sure this knight will go to e3. So even though these knights don't look too great, they are going to become very great very soon. So so let's see what's happening here. Knight b6. This is such an interesting game. Yeah, now the knight is coming back here. Pretty sure the knight is just gonna come back. Not really sure what Black's idea here exactly would be. I guess that at some point Black wants to go d5 and d4, perhaps try to get some center here. But yeah, rook d8 is playing center, and now he's playing rook e8, and now he's playing knight g5. Very interesting. Getting this pawn formation here on the king side. And one idea here that might be played at some point will be something like king f2, rook h1, and queen h5. That could definitely be one of the ideas here. So we're just going to be following this whole game here now, and then we'll be going to another game. But he's bringing his queen up to the board, attacking this knight. Let's go ahead and see what Steka does. I have to say, this looks very pleasant for white. Seems like white has a lot of piece activity, a lot of center as well. And c4, so he's pushing back this knight over here. So let's see where the knight goes. Let's see where the knight goes. Knight c7 makes sense to get the knight up to e6. Going with the knight somewhere else wouldn't really put the knight in any productive square. So knight c7 was played here. And b3 just to give this pawn a little bit more of protection over there. b4 is a really normal move here. One idea for black could be at some point to go a5 and a4, especially if they had this rook on the other square. I think that black would actually rather have a rook on a8 than on f8, unless they go for this plan of doubling up here. But if they wanted to go for this idea of pushing a5, a4, and trying to get some counterplay on the queen side, the rook would rather be on a8. So yeah, here's one point where it would have been so much better to have the rook on the a file to make sure that the rook couldn't come into a6. But now it seems like white has a lot of activity. This rook is going to be very annoying. I have to say that. This rook is going to be extremely annoying. And this queen is probably going to come in here very soon. We have a pushback pawn. A backwards pawn, that's the name. We have a backwards pawn here on d6 that is going to be very weak throughout the whole game probably. That's going to be one of black's biggest weaknesses. And this pawn is not able to advance, which would be the dream of the pawn, because then white can just capture it. So yeah, now black decided to just give up the pawn because it just didn't seem like there was going to be any way of defending it. And now he's pushing him in g6. Look at how Hikaru is just pushing every single piece up here. This is, wow. This seems very tough for black, to be honest. Seems extremely tough for black at this point to play this. But let's see if black is able to defend. So king h8 is played here now. All right, it was a check, and now what white wants to do is just exchange queens here. So if white is able to exchange queens, then it's going to be really tough. But even though it seems as if white had blundered a queen and the rook could just capture the queen, the issue was that there was this checkmate before, so that just would not have been possible. The rook couldn't capture the queen because of the checkmate. We can see how strong a pawn on g6 is, and now we have the same checkmate threat there. The queen needs to stay on these light squares to defend e8, because otherwise it's just a checkmate. And now white is just going to push this pawn as well. And it just looks very tough. Very tough. This pawn is just going to push all the way up. And then now finally Steka decides to resign. We're going to go ahead and very quickly see what happens in this game with number 2 Bogdan is playing against Reality Stone. Wow, what a cool profile picture. Is that a heart with chess pieces? I'm not sure if that's a heart with chess pieces. That's very cool. But anyways, as I was saying before, Bogdan became a grandmaster when he was super young. He was only 14 years old and 7 months. I believe he was really young when he became a grandmaster. So an extremely strong player. But it seems as if white is having a good game here. The time is very low, 24 seconds for both. So it seems like white has a sort of attack here. Knight f5 could be an idea. So this seems to be a good game for white. Let's see if white is able to win or to draw or to do something here, or if Bogdan is able to defend. So knight e4, just trying to kick away the queen from here, trying to get a little bit of counterplay by putting some pressure on the c file. Knight c3, this square is quite weak. We can see that one of the things that black has at this point is that this bishop on b3 is very weak. And the moment that I said it, they just capture here. But now this is looking very good for white. For black. It seems like black has a lot of material. Now they want an exchange as well. Queen b4. Very beautiful move. This is wow, that's a rook. Yeah, I think that we just joined at the turning point of the game. White is really trying to find some type of perpetual, but it doesn't seem like that's possible. There's no more checks, and I'm sure that they will resign very soon. I'm sure that white will resign very soon. Okay, the moment that we joined was the turning point of the game. I think that we joined at an extremely good time. We're gonna go ahead and see what other games we have going on here. So yeah, here we had Jeffrey Chong who won this game as well. Let's see if there's any other game ongoing. Let's see if there's any other game ongoing, or if they have all finished their games. We're gonna go ahead and get those standings updated there. There we have the standings. And we are going to try to see if we can find any other games. So we can see that Ariantari is playing right now. Let's go ahead and find and see how this endgame goes here. Let's go ahead and see how this endgame goes. So, okay. This seems to be extremely winning for white. This is a bishop and more pawns than I can count that I can count up here. So this is looking really good. This is looking really good for white. And now this is just going to be becoming another queen, and then that's queen a8, and that's a checkmate. We are joining when the checkmates are happening, everybody. We're joining when the checkmates are happening. Let's see if there is any other game ongoing before the next round. We have a few left. This seems to be one of those games that's going to end up being quite a long one. Attack Sparrow against Becca. Queen versus 2 rooks, and this is really interesting because this probably should be a draw if played 100% correctly. But it's very difficult when you have 2 rooks sometimes to play an endgame like this, especially with 1 second left on the clock, because if you get your rooks too far away from each other, then what's going to happen is simply that you might lose one of those rooks with one of these checks. So what white is going to try to do is just to check until there aren't any checks anymore. Maybe try to push this pawn and just try to get the rooks and king in an uncomfortable position. That's kind of what white wants to do here, but it's not easy. The only thing that could lead white to win is this pawn. But once again, this is difficult to play practically, even though the computer might say that this is a draw. So going to be fun to see what happens here. Going to be very fun to see what happens. Queen check. Yeah, they're just what black is trying to do is just stop the advance of these pawns. And white can never really push this pawn if these 2 rooks are here on the same file, because then the 2 rooks will just sacrifice themselves for the queen, and then that'll just be a draw. So I think that this is going to end up in a draw now. With these 2 rooks on the same file, it doesn't seem to be able to be any advancement here. So yeah, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Get a checkmate or I will be sad. Maricela, thank you for the 5,000 bits. I'm not sure we'll get a checkmate here. It's going to be exciting to see if we get a checkmate, but this just seemed to be a bunch of checks. Bunch of checks that aren't really going anywhere. And now finally they are. Yeah, I think that what white wanted to do in this position was just to hope that, yeah, the black would go rook b7, and then white would be able to capture this rook on g6. But yeah, this just ended up being a draw. They finally agreed on a draw, and everybody, we are going to round number 2. Let's go ahead and get these standings updated. So there doesn't seem to be any big surprises so far in the first boards. We can see that all of the top players, almost all of them, won their first game. So this is now round number 2. And right now, Hikaru, we're just going to go ahead and come back to see what happens in this game. Right now, Hikaru is playing against the... Well, I'm not going to pronounce it. Okay, Alex Papasimakopoulos from Greece. Let's go actually and follow another game all the way from the beginning. I'm going to go ahead and follow Bogdan here now from the beginning. So let's go ahead and see what's happened in this game so far. This is the position that we have. We'll let Hikaru do his thing and we'll go to board number 2 to see what happens here. So this was a game that started with the move b3 that seems to be, I mean, it's actually played quite a lot, this move b3, and the idea is just to fianchetto your bishop very, very early on in the game. But now it's but now we're gonna go ahead and see what happens. So knight c3 was played. No exchange of queens, and Yeah, this just seems to be a comfortable position for white. White has fianchetto this bishop. Black's bishop isn't really doing anything. Black needs to move this knight somewhere. Perhaps something like knight e5 makes sense to get the bishop out. And then black will be able to develop as well. But yeah, this is definitely a very, very solid position for both players. But we can see that Bogdan has 3 minutes and is just over a minute up on time. So Bogdan has a lot of time. A lot of more time. Let's see. So knight c5 was played. Queen goes to d2, wants to get away from this diagonal over here. And I think that now black just needs to get the bishop out. So bishop h3 is just to get the bishop out on a tempo, but the rook would want to move from f1 anyways. So it's not really a problem for white. And the problem here with black is that they can't really find any break in the center. So what black is going to try to do is probably try to find a break on the queen side. That is probably what black is going to try to do. That's why rook b8 was played as well, both to keep all the protection on this pawn, but also perhaps to go at some point b5. I think that could be a good idea. And that is why also I think that white is going b4, because then at some point if b5 is played by black, then white can counter it with b4. So it makes sense to get those rooks in. The second rook has to move as well. So I think that this rook will be going to b1 or c1, or c5 is played immediately. That's also really good, opening up the d file here. That's the plan for white. That's why the rook went to d1 as well, and this seems to be quite good for white practically. So yeah, this is looking very, very good. If this knight at any point moves, black has to be very careful about this knight f6 check. Takes, once again, knight cannot move. Also, there's this pin here. So exchanging that knight seems to be a great idea. It seems to be a very, very strong piece in this position. And rook takes makes all the sense in the world, just to double up those two rooks over here. So the queen probably has to move to get itself out of this extremely annoying pin with the knight. Queen f6, just to kind of force a queen exchange. If the queen goes anywhere else apart from this diagonal, the rook on a1 is hanging. So rook c1, going to go ahead and exchange the rooks, and then probably white will try to double up the rooks on the d file as well. So that is the idea here for white. This seems to be quite comfortable for white, because white has some really active pieces. Also, typically the bishop and the rooks work better than rooks and knights. But yeah, this seems to be something that black can definitely hold. The only thing that I'm worried about for black is the 25 seconds on the clock. I've been there. I can tell you that. I've been in so many games where I just have 2 minutes less than my opponent, and it's just horrible. It's just not a good time. And this is black situation here as well. I'm an expert in time trouble. I'm sure that black will play the time trouble a lot better than what I would do, but still, it's really uncomfortable to be in time trouble. So yeah, we're gonna see if white can take advantage of the fact that they have so much extra time. And now white is putting some pressure on a7. The idea is that if a6 or something, then the pawn on b7 is hanging as well. So actually white will probably be winning some pawn, but black goes to d7 to put pressure on the c5 pawn. So if white takes one of these pawns, then black can capture on c5 as well. So one idea here could be to go c6, or another idea could be to go bishop takes b7, knight takes, and then just capture an a7 and just get that pawn. But c6 makes sense just to destroy these pawns, or the pawn structure on the queen side. So that's a really good move. And now black is just trying to centralize the knight. Now black is just trying to centralize the knight. Bishop goes to b5. Rook goes to d5. Black needs to keep on attacking, because otherwise white will just capture these pawns. So when you have a worse pawn structure, activity becomes extremely important. That's what black is trying to do here. But once again, only 2 seconds for black. One second increment, extremely little time. My guess would be that black is pre-moving quite a lot at this point. We can also become problematic sometimes. Here takes, and rook takes pawn, wins a pawn. And yeah, here we can see how white seems to be now just taking over in the position. White has this extra pawn, which is going to be really strong, and the king will always be able to stop this pawn. So this pawn is not really something to worry about. We can see a difference about with this pawn and this pawn being that this pawn is so far away from the king, whereas this pawn is just quite close to this king. So not really a lot of problems. If rook takes here, yeah, white didn't want to push the pawn because then the pawn on g3 would become weak, and that's why the king decided to go all the way back to g3 just to defend this pawn over here. And I'm pretty sure that white will start pushing quite soon. That's what they're doing now, and that's what kind of they should be doing. When you have an extra pawn, an extra pass pawn, the best thing you can do is push it. So pretty sure that white will keep on pushing. Going g4 also makes sense. White is trying to get another pass pawn, so having two pass pawns is always better than one, and that's what white's idea is here now. But now they're getting closer and closer with the time. Yeah, this is looking really good. White is stopping all of these pawns, but f5, and now yeah, it takes here, and that's just another extra pawn for white. So 2 extra pawns for white. Bogdan seems to be taking this home. And now this pawn is almost gonna become stronger than the other one, but maybe you shouldn't push it now already. We can see that the evil bar wasn't so happy about that. But yeah, this once again seems to be very, 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 very good for white. And now white will just be able to take this pawn, and this is just a simple endgame now. That I'm sure white will win. So just pushing the pawn, getting the king up, king f6, king g7. No way to stop the promotion of this pawn. And finally, black resigns. Bogdan wins, and we are going to jump to the next game as fast as we can. So we can see some of the results here already. Let's see if board number 1 is still playing. Hikaru won. Let's go ahead and see if there are any other games going on here. We're gonna go ahead and go to this one. We got Sergey Chilgako playing against Lamps, and we're gonna see what other games are ongoing before we go to round number 3. Let's go ahead also and update the standings. In the meantime, everybody, while we're watching this game and while we're getting to the end of round number 2, what are your predictions? Who do you think will be the winner of today's Title Tuesday? Who do you think will be the winner of today's Title Tuesday is the question. So we're going to go ahead and see which last games there are. Just a few more games going on here. Yeah, this seems to be quite a good endgame for black. But yeah, also seems to be quite a drawish endgame, especially now that it's just 1 versus 1. This is just gonna be very drawish, this one. So yeah, what are your predictions? Who do you think will be the winner of this Title Tuesday today? We've only had 2 rounds so far, so yeah. But now this pawn is pushing quite a lot. But yeah, this should just be a draw. Should just be a draw. This pawn is so strong. It's really important for black though to push the pawn. To push the pawn immediately. Now they're just taking that one, and that just ends up in a draw. So let's go ahead and see if there are any other games ongoing. We have this game, which is the most drawn endgame you'll ever see in your whole life. This is an extremely drawn endgame. Yeah, this is as drawn as it gets. And yeah, it's just a different color and bishop endgame. Yeah, this is just nothing happening. Different color bishop endgames are, in most cases end up a draw because the bishop can always protect the different squares. So your bishop can always defend. Basically, most times it can defend. So we are going to go ahead and see which other ones are left. Let's go ahead and watch this one. Okay, we got a rook and bishop versus rook endgame. Okay, look at this. This is one of those that, yeah, this is one of those that probably will end up in a draw, but also anything could happen. Anything could happen in a blitz game. This endgame is, yeah, This endgame should just be a draw. I mean, there are some ways that white could win, but it should theoretically be a draw. Unless black really messes up. But now, the moment that I'm saying it, black messes up. Look at that, everybody. Okay, well, yeah, this is pretty much what you probably shouldn't do, to go to the A file and allow for something like this, because then there's always all of these tricks of, you know, the checkmate and the rook hanging at the very end. So we just experienced something quite cool there. Okay, let's go ahead and go now to board number 3 and see what is happening here. So we got Jeffrey Chong playing here against another American Grandmaster. So let's go ahead and see what is happening here. The results so far seem to be, this is round number 3, by the way, everybody. Results so far seem to be pretty close to what they should be based on the ratings. But we are going to go ahead and see what is happening here. So this has just become a four nights game. Here, white is trying to play with the bishop. So this bishop on d3 is very strong. This bishop on f4 is also really strong. Now they're exchanging it. And working one. All of these are really normal developing moves in a position like this. So black is trying to develop, white is trying to develop. This idea here is also quite interesting, trying to bring the knight up to d4 and perhaps placing a piece on f5. This square on f5 is always a really good square. So yeah, this square is typically a really good square to place a piece on. Either if it's a knight or a bishop, it depends on the situation, but especially a knight would be really, really nice here on f5. So we'll see if an idea like this is played. I guess that one of the ideas for black as well might be to, well, now it seems to be knight here, knight c5 perhaps. At some point trying to get the knight over to this side. Or even trying to get a knight up to e5. But c4 is played. And I wasn't sure if this was going to be played, because typically you wouldn't really want a pawn to become kind of weak here after captures. But I guess that the idea is that there's just so much pressure on d6, and c5 now just goes ahead and wins a piece, and he plays it immediately. Okay. He plays it immediately. And now if the bishop moves, then we're just going to be seeing a piece hanging on e5. So I'm not sure if this is the moment where the count is going to resign. But this is just a piece up for white. Very nice trick that he just found immediately. So there were a lot of tactics here before, which is why he played c4 when there was all of this whole battle pieces putting pressure on d6. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and go to the next one. This was quite a quick win for Jeffrey Chong. And we are going to go ahead and see what is happening on the other board. So let's go ahead and go to board number 4 and see what Mamerdyarov is up to here. He's playing against Bizarre Wixall. Let's see what's happening here. So white has the bishop pair. Bishop pair in endgames typically extremely strong, especially when it's a rook endgame. Extremely strong, but at the same time, this seems to be a very solid position for black. So we're going to see what exactly black plays. This seems to be still a really long game, and they're taking here now. Yeah, that's a decision. That's definitely a decision to give away your bishop pair. But what Mamerdyarov is basically saying is just that, you know, I'm destroying your pawn structure, so it's worth it. So now bishop d4 is a really nice move as well. And the idea of that is 1, to put pressure on a7, 2, to stop any advance of this pawn, and to stop any c5, any type of c5 move. Because the dream for black would be to go c5, d4, and just get 2 really strong pass pawns. So what white wants to do is to just really block those pawns. And that's also why he goes king d2, not just to have an active king, but also to always make sure that if he has to, he'll be able to stop the pawns. And we can see now rook c1 is being played here. But yeah, the problem here, of course, for white is that yeah, they are a pawn down, but they actually just have a lot of activity. So I don't think that being a pawn down is too much of a problem here right now for white, because the pieces are just so active. This bishop on e6 is just defending this pawn. This rook on f7 is just defending this pawn, and white is attacking. So I definitely think that white has a lot of compensation for that pawn. And now maybe either white tries to centralize the king by going king c3. Okay, now they went bishop f2. And the idea would be then, I guess, yeah, to go bishop g3 and put all the pressure in the world on c7. And that is why as well the king is going to d8, because the king wants to defend here. And now we got all of black's pieces defending and all of white's pieces attacking almost. It's just, white is just missing the king. When the king gets to d4, every single piece from white will be attacking. So this is looking quite good for white. Yeah, the computer even thinks that white is a little bit better, even if white is a pawn now. Now finally, white got the pawn back. Black decided that the attack was just too strong, so they just had to give a pawn back to kind of be in the game. But we can see that white's pieces are still extremely active. These pawns cannot push, and rook h7 was a big threat. And now they're just going back and forth. I don't think that white wants to draw, but it was just a way to gain time, I think. And that's quite good to do sometimes, also psychologically. Like, just repeat a couple moves and just ask your opponent, what is it that you're gonna do? Are you gonna repeat, or what exactly are you gonna do? So yeah, this just looks very, very, very good. And now even something like, maybe getting the rook to the other side, or starting to push b4. And trying to go with your passed pawns on the queen side. Really good that white has a queen side majority here. That's going to do everything in this game. So this is looking very, very good. Right now, right now black just dreams of being able to push their passed pawns, but black just can't. White is defending the advance of this pawn with the king and the bishop, so it's just impossible for black to push here. And now finally the rook goes to the other side and puts pressure on these queenside pawns, and we're gonna see this a pawn running, and it's going to be really hard to stop it, to be honest. It's going to be extremely hard. And I've just realized that I'm not wearing my glasses. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my glasses on, because that's why everything was a bit blurry. I was kind of afraid for myself, but I was just not wearing my glasses. Here we go. Now we're wearing our glasses. But we're gonna see what exactly happens here. So actually now black tries to exchange one of the rooks, and that is because because of the reason that I said before, that an endgame where it's different color bishops is just typically a draw. Because, for instance, let's say that they would exchange the rooks and this pawn was not an a6 already, or even now, like even if the pawn advances to a7 and there are no rooks left, if the bishop goes to b7, it's going to be really, really hard for white to push this pawn. But now they changed rooks too late, and white was just able to promote, and that is a win for Mamedyarov. That is a win for Mamedyarov. We're gonna go ahead and see who is still playing. So I think that, yeah, Bogdan is still playing against Shop. I'm really not sure if that's how that is pronounced, but we got another queen versus two rooks endgame. And I mean, in some positions, it's favorable to have the queen, but in a position like this where black's king is extremely safe, then having two rooks is actually a bit better, because I mean, with two pieces you basically have more things to do. So as long as the king is safe, it's a lot of times better to have two rooks. Also, we are gonna see some ideas like this, especially when it's two rooks playing against this weak white king. And they actually decided to go for an exchange here, and wow, yeah, this is just completely winning. Two pawns versus one, and yeah, you're gonna take, and now you're gonna start pushing here, and this is just not possible to stop. And now the pawn is just gonna push, and we're gonna see, yeah, we are going to see a win here. So Bogdan is going to take home the win here. Exactly. It's also more pawns better for rooks, both king safety and more pawns better for rooks. Definitely, definitely, definitely. So now we're gonna go ahead and go to the next one. We only got a few more games happening. We're seeing another game that looks very, very drawish. Rook and pawn versus rook and pawn. Seems to be extremely, extremely drawish. The white is just gonna go for the checks because there's just no good way of defending this pawn. And even now when it's a pawn down, I mean, white is always just going to go for all the checks and then they're gonna come back and defend here. So the only idea here would be if white took with the king, then there would be the check and then white would be winning the king. But yeah, they don't fall for that. This is what happens here. Let's see if there are any more games happening. Look at this checkmate that we weren't able to see live, but look at this beautiful checkmate. I'm actually very curious about how that ended up being a checkmate, but that was beautiful. That was a really beautiful checkmate that we just joined into. But we're gonna go now and go for round number 4. Fourth round already. We can see now that there are 593 people that are playing. So more people are from the start, which is great. Let's go ahead and see. Let's go ahead and watch another game. Let's go ahead and leave this game. Let's see how Hikaru does in this game. And then if this one finishes up quickly, we'll go to another one. So let's see what happens here. I'm just gonna update the standings. Good. Awesome. Okay, so actually, Jeffrey Shang has taken the lead now. We can see that the standings are a little bit different. Jeffrey Shang is taking the lead, followed by Mehmet Yarif. So Hikaru is not leading anymore. So yeah, a little bit of a change here. And this was a really interesting opening. This is sort of like a modern defense kind of. And we can see, yeah, now black is probably going to castle quite soon, unless you know, I'm sure that black will castle this way. I was gonna say black wants to castle queenside somehow, but I don't think that's going to happen. And now, I mean, just castling for white makes a lot of sense because otherwise, it's just going to be very dangerous. I think that both colors need to go ahead and castle now very soon. If something like queen e2, which might make sense, just to pin here. Nah, queen c2 is played instead. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, that wasn't gonna be any issue. You could just defend the knight. So okay, and now we're seeing or even, yeah, with castles, and that was really beautiful. Idea was that if queen checked, then if queen takes, then there was gonna be rook e8, and then the queen and king were gonna be pinned. So the knight goes to c5. That's a really nice square for the knight. b4, trying to kick that one away. And let's actually go ahead and leave this game a little bit here. And I kind of want to see how it's going for board number 1, because I feel like this game is looking extremely interesting by the leader right now, by Jeffrey Shang. So this game is looking extremely interesting. Let's just go ahead and check how this is going over here. c4, really nice move to try to break the center. If pawn takes c4, you just capture this knight. So this looks very nice for white, and it's really difficult to know where this knight is going to go as well. So yeah, f5 seemed to be one of the few moves to defend the knight, and now white is able to take en passant and even bring another piece onto attack on h7. We can see that already now in move 16. There's just this immense attack on black's king side, which is looking really nice. And there's just no way to stop this exchange, or from winning this exchange. So that's really beautiful. It seems like white is just going to win this game. 2:24 versus a minute. I have to say, Jeffrey Shang has so much time. Every single game that we join, he just has plenty more of time than the opponent. So this is looking really good. He's probably going to go ahead and win this one. So let's actually go ahead and follow one of the other games. Let's go ahead and see what Amin is doing here, who's third in the standings. Let's see how his game is going. This is also looking very interesting. Amin has this pawn all the way up on h3, which is really limiting the king's movement. And he hasn't castled which is really interesting. I'm not sure if he's going to castle. I don't think he is. I think that this is already just going to be extremely dangerous. And now, yeah, now there are all of these ideas of going e3 with check and just winning the queen. So this king is extremely unsafe here on h1. It's extremely unsafe here. So wow, that's this looks very beautiful. This looks very beautiful. And it's something like bishop takes d7. I mean, I'm quite sure that you can just take it and then that's it. There's nothing going on. So Amin goes ahead and wins this game. That is that's very beautiful. 21 moves. We didn't see the whole game, but that seemed to have been a very beautiful game. And he's actually now taking the whole lead. Let's go and see what Aseri Chess is up to as well. He's also there second. This is not looking too great, I guess, because he's a full rook down. Oh wow, okay, yeah, Aseri's a full rook down from what it looks like, so this just seems to be completely winning for... And they're exchanging here now as well. Yeah, this just seems to be completely winning for white. And then they resign here as well. Okay, let's go back to see how Hikaru is doing against Super Chess here. Let's go ahead and see what is happening. What is happening here? Oh, this is looking quite good. I'm just gonna go ahead and flip the boards. But yeah, this is looking very interesting. Seems to be that both white and black have a lot of play here. If something like queen takes, knight takes, I think that white can just get the rook in. So I think that white has quite an active position. Or a knight of 3 as well. Yeah, now, yeah, because this knight was hanging, exactly. So the knight has to come back. But maybe an idea as well will be at some point to go perhaps rook c2. That's what we're seeing here. The problem here for black is the fact that that this pawn on c6 is quite weak. So what black is going to try to do is simply to try to put pressure on b4, to maybe try to go c5 and exchange, just because this pawn is just one of the weakest pawns. So if bishop here now, rook f2, really trying to put pressure on f7. There were some ideas of knight h6 check and then taking on f7. And now white is just going for the activity. But I think that in these last few moves, white lost a little bit too much material. And now we can also see that white is going to be losing a full piece. So at this moment, Hikaru just wins the game. That was really nice. Let's go ahead and go to another one, everybody. Let's go ahead and see what is happening here between Dimitri and Openya. Let's see what is happening. Black seems to be quite a lot of pawns up. We're right now at the very last few seconds of round number 4. So players only have a few seconds. We're updating the standings. You can see that we have Amin leading right now, followed by Mickey, followed by Hikaru. Yeah, these are just the very last few seconds. Of round number 4. And actually also Draw the Night Twitch just went ahead and joined the standings on the 3rd spot. That's not a bad spot at all. That's a very nice one. So let's go ahead and see what happens in these few last seconds. This is looking really good for black because they're just going to go ahead and take this pawn on h4, and then this h pawn is just going to become extremely strong. It's going to be really tough for white to defend from both the advance of this pawn, but also from the advance of the b pawn. We can see that black has 2 passed pawns, and I mean, white is also trying to get their own passed pawns, but this pawn is just going to be a lot faster probably. So they are trying to push all the way though. And yeah, this is actually going to be really interesting because probably this actually just changed here. Yeah, this actually just changed here. So now they're just going to go, oh wow, look at what we're witnessing. They're just going to go for this type of hanging where it's a rook versus 2 pawns, but there is this pawn here too. So this is, wow, every turn that can happen in a game is turning here. And now this is just a full queen for black. That is beautiful. That is just beautiful. Wow. these last few moves, let's just go ahead and come back and see what these last few moves were, because that was really, 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 really beautiful. It seemed as if white had saved the position, that white was just going to be able to promote. But in this position, wow. Yeah, in this position, yeah, it was this check probably. It was this check. They just had to go ahead and make a queen there to at least get this queen versus queen and pawn, and just yeah, just try to play this. There would probably be too many checks for this pawn to promote. So yeah, rook b6 check just didn't work out. It was probably just a move that happened due to time trouble. But everybody, there is going to be a break now. We will be back very soon. We're gonna go ahead and leave these last standings so you can see what the standings are. We got Jeffrey Chang leading right now, followed by Amin, followed by Mickey. So we will be back right after the break with round number 5. It's going to be really, 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 really exciting. And I'll see you very soon, everybody. We'll be back very soon. very soon we are going to get these new standings update. We can say Giga Kwaparadze, Georgian GM, also got up here to the standings on 4 out of 4. He's on second place right now. We can see that there is still plenty of people that have 4 points. Still plenty of people that have 4 points. But for every round, there's going to be less and less people that have the full pot. So we are going to go ahead and see when the next games get started. They're probably going to start extremely soon, in about a minute. It'll be really fun. It'll be really fun to see what players can keep their full score after this. And here we go. The games are starting. We don't even have time to do anything else. The games are starting immediately. And now I think it would be really interesting to we'll keep this game off for a little bit, and then we'll see if we can get as well Giga Kwaparadze in here to see how his game is going. Here we go. Here we have it. Here's the Kwaparadze game to see how he does there. Right now, leading Title Tuesday, leading this day's Title Tuesday. So we got a Queen's Indian happening here. He's playing against an international master from Romania, Jackie. We're gonna go ahead and see what happens. So right now they're taking on a3. Rook takes makes a lot of sense, just to be able to open up the whole a file. Try to get some activity. This pawn in b6 is kind of weak. That's kind of what one of the things that white is going to be playing for. And we can see that both players have fianchettoed their bishops here. Queen d2 is played to connect the rooks. Knight b5, knight b4, a beautiful square for the knight. The knight goes up to b5. Both players have this b4, b5 square. There's no pawn that can eliminate these knights, which yeah, we're gonna see which knight becomes stronger. But these knights are typically very strong here because they limit a lot of the opponent's piece activity. So okay, now instead we're seeing that there's going to be a couple of double pawns here. This is looking quite good for black. These pawns seem to be very weak for white. There's not really any proper way right now of defending this pawn. For instance, so the knight goes back to d3. At least they want to exchange this b4 knight and try to give the same pawn structure for black. Try to give these double pawns that we've seen aren't that good. But this is probably the best thing that the white could go for at that position. But white did lose a pawn, and black is definitely better at this point. The only thing that white might have is the fact that white has the bishop, but not even anymore, because this knight was just going to become so strong. So there really was not really anything at that point. It seems like black's pieces are going to become extremely active very soon. Yeah, queen d5, a beautiful square for the queen. Very centralized, putting pressure on b3. b3 is going to become a crucial pawn in this game. If black is able to get this pawn, then it's going to be really good. And actually black is able to take it now. Every time whenever I say something, that is what happens. Every single time I've said something today, that's basically what happens in the game. So yeah, we are gonna see where the white queen goes. I think, yeah, the queen needs to go somewhere active. Only thing that white might have here is if white can get a lot of piece activity. But yeah, question is how, because this pawn is going to be so strong. This is black's most important pawn. It's a past b pawn, so black is going to try to push it as fast as they can. And this queen is really strong here as well, because it's stopping any pawn advancement for white. And even this pawn on e4 is quite strong, because it's also stopping any pawn advancement for white. So we can see at this point that white cannot really push their pawns, and black is just going to start pushing their pawns. I think that, I mean, even going b5 now, quite soon after defending this pawn on f7, it's going to be really good. You just want to push your pawn as much as you can. And I mean, white goes g4 because I think that the king might want to go that way, but also h4, of course, to then later perhaps, yeah, to then at least be able to place the pawn on h5 after black pushes their pawns. So now black is just going for their idea of pushing the pawn as much as possible. White needs to get the rook or have the rook on the b file, because otherwise the pawn is just going to be pushed until promotion. So the pawn needs to stay here, or the rook needs to stay there. And now the question for black becomes, should they push once and leave the pawn in b2, or should they leave the pawn in b3 and go for something else, like anything else, trying to get the king somewhere else, going e5. E5 is probably not a good move because of rook b6. So they go for b2, and now black cannot move this rook because then the pawn is just going to be hanging on b2. So black needs to get their king active, and there's not really a lot that white can do. If the white rook ever leaves b7 and goes to another file, if white ever leaves the b file, then there's going to be this rook g1 check, and after king takes, there's going to be a promotion. So white can never leave the b file, which is what black's idea is. Black is just trying to take advantage of the fact that white needs to stay on this file here. And even if black could get another pass pawn, that would be really good as well. This just looks completely crushing for black at this point. This looks extremely good. And now if the king goes to g3, there's going to be an immediate check on g1. This is very beautiful, actually. And e3 is also a very nice move, with the idea that if takes, there's going to be f2. And whenever the king goes here, or no, I mean, then there's going to be f2, actually, and you're just going to promote. I wanted to show another idea, but it's going to be the same thing. So here, I'm not really sure why. Oh yeah, I guess that's because they didn't want to do queen. Black could have gone rook h1 check and then just promoted check queen, but obviously it's better to be a rook up than going queen versus rook. It's just a lot easier to play this. So this makes a lot of sense, and now this is just completely crushing for black. So I think that we are going to... Yeah. I wanted to leave the game before the checkmate, but the extremely fast checkmate was just inevitable. And we got Kuparadze still leading the tournament. Let's go ahead and see what the other boards are up to. We got Hikaru playing against Draw the Night Twitch right now. Let's see what is happening in this game. Jeffrey is also up there. We got actually some new people on the standings, which is really fun to see. We're gonna go ahead and follow their games as well. Tennis Master is up there. Chopper is leading the whole thing right now, which is really fun to see. We're gonna go ahead and see how he's doing in the next boards, or in the next few games. But before anything, let's see how our own Chess.com Chess with Hess, Grandmaster Robert Hess, is doing right now. I think that this is a really fun game to see. He's on 3.5 out of 4, so he doesn't have the full pot, but he's very close. He only has half a point less. So let's see how Robert, or how Hess how Hess does this. This is looking extremely good for I don't know if to call him Robert or Hess. Okay, I'll call you Hess. I typically call him Robert, but I'm gonna call him Hess. Okay, Hess. Yeah, he's just gonna push his pawn all the way up to a1, and there's just, yeah, no way of stopping the promotion. No way of stopping the promotion. We got the queen there, and we get to witness Robert Hess winning this beautiful game against international master Brian Escalante. That was a beautiful game that we got to witness there. Let's see who else we have here. Lots of really fun games. Let's go ahead and go back and see. Let's go ahead and see how Mkhitaryan is doing, actually, in this game. He's also up there in the standings, also on 4 out of 4. So we can see some of the people that already are on 5 out of 5. Some people are 4.5. But we're gonna see these last few games of the people that have 4 points to see if any people join Chopper and Tennis. And we can see that Mkhitaryan is joining Chopper and Tennis on 5 points. Okay, I mean, wow. Let's go ahead and go for the next one. Let's go ahead and see what is happening here then. They are now 3.5. So I think that all of the games that have 4 points have been decided. Here we have the full standings. Here we have everybody that has 5 points, and this game finishes as well. Let's see what we have here. Do we have any more games going on? Some 3.5 point games. Let's see, Alex versus Fighter-Man. Will Fighter-Man fight like Fighter-Man? It's actually looking very tough for Fighter-Man at this point. An exchange down, and all of these pawns are just pushing. So Fighter-Man, unfortunately, loses here. But let's go to the next one. If there are any more games left, we're at the very end of round number 5. See what we have going on here. Queen versus Rook game between Manticore and Karaksani. See what happens in this one. Once again, Queen and Rook, it's another one of those that, yeah, I mean, it's just winning, actually. It's just winning. In some positions, it can be a bit tricky, but here, it was just completely winning. So there wasn't a lot more to it. Let's see what Anton Demchenko is doing in this endgame against Juliana. I think that she's a streamer as well. I believe I've seen her streaming a couple times, so that's really fun to see her here. And this just ends up in an endgame, in a draw. I mean, that's really amazing. Wow, look at this. She was able to draw Anton Demchenko, a very strong GM, 2900. That's a great result for her. She's doing a really great tournament, it seems like. So that is awesome. That is awesome. Let's see if we have any more games. One more game left, everybody, and we finish round number 5 together with this king versus king. Round number 6 is going to start in any second. This was the very last game that we got to witness there. So these are the standings right now. We got Hikaru, Giga, Kuparadze, Vincent. Let's see how these games are going. A bunch of people that are on 5 points. A bunch of people for sure that are on 5 points. Let's actually go ahead and see how Vincent does. He's right now second in the standings. Let's see how Vincent does here. We are getting an English opening here, but it's kind of turning, it's kind of transposing to sort of Queen's, sort of transposing to some other d4 openings. So knight is going up to h4 just to kick the bishop away from f5. c5, always c5 to break the center. Probably just going to either the pawn will stay here and something like e3 will be played, or d5 will be played as well. Those are the two options. d5 is nice because you get a lot of space, but in some positions sometimes you like to keep your pawns the way they are. You don't really want to push, so it kind of depends. But yeah, lots of space for white. This knight will not stay here forever, that's for sure. But for now, it is staying here. Something like e4 could be played. Sometimes the pawn doesn't want to go to e4, but e4 definitely makes sense. And the reason why black is going up to a6 is because of this plan. Black wants to go to c7. Black didn't really want to play knight d7 because if the knight goes to d7, it's blocking the bishop on c8. So and it doesn't really have a lot of good squares to go from d7. So on c7, it's actually really nice because it's supporting this idea of e6, and it's putting pressure on d5. We got all these pieces putting pressure here, but yeah, the white pawn will remain here, and probably white will not really do anything. You don't really want to take here on, or you can, but sometimes it's not that nice to take here because that kind of gives a bit more center for black. But it's definitely an option to take there. It's just about preference. Basically h3 is played. One of the ideas of h3 is both to stop any bishop g4, also stopping knight g4 at some point. So those are ideas. Rook b8, black wants to go b5. That's basically what black wants to play in a lot of these positions, just because white has so much center. You know what they say, if you attack in the center, you gotta counterattack on one of the other sides. So black is counterattacking on the queen side. That's the idea. b5 was perhaps not really that good in that position. I guess that the idea is that the pawn on a7 would be hanging. So I think that b5 is going to be a move that's going to be prepared. Maybe with a6, b5, or first getting the bishop out. But at some point, I'm pretty sure that black will want to go b5. But bishop b7 first makes a lot of sense to just get the bishop active. I'm putting pressure on d5. This is a pawn that's, not going to be lost, but I mean, the bishop is not doing a lot on c8, so you gotta do something. Bishop a6 as well could be a good move here now. Bishop e7 doesn't really make a lot of sense anymore because there's this whole blockade of pawns. So bishop a6, just to get the bishop active, is a great idea as well. There we go. Bishop a6 is up. The rook will go. The rook wants to go to e1 anyway, so it's not that big of an issue for white. But what the bishop on a6 also does is stopping the knight from going to c4, which is where the white knight wants to go to if they could, put themselves in their dream square. So the bishop on a6 is actually quite useful, and it's always really annoying to have, a bishop just pinning down everything in front of you. So that really... That's quite a good piece. And now it's going back to f3 because it just realized that it didn't really have any it didn't really have any purpose on d2 now that it couldn't go to c4. So now they're trying to find another purpose. You see, that's one of the things you have to do in chess. If your opponent stops one of your plans, you just gotta find a new one. And that is what Vincent is doing right here, is trying to find a new plan. And one of those plans, I believe, was put pressure on d6. Maybe at some point, maybe you may be able to go e5, but now just being able to capture an e5. And now this pawn, everybody, whenever a pawn move is made, a lot of times the whole position changes. And when a pawn capture is made, the position changes even more. This pawn right here is going to be the most valuable pawn for white. This is going to be a pawn that white is going to be take very dear of. Is that a sentence? I'm not sure. But white is going to take care of this pawn at least, because this is a really strong pawn in endgames. A protected passed pawn is basically going to limit all of the opponent's pieces, because they're always going to have to think about this pawn perhaps pushing at some point. So this is extremely strong. A very, very, very strong pawn that they have here. Which is one of the downsides of capturing on e5 with the pawn, of course, always. But they decided to do it anyways. This bishop is, I think that one of the ideas here for black might be to go f5 at some point. Could be really dangerous to do it. It could be an idea just to try to break off all the protection on this pawn, because this e4 and d5 pawn structure is just so strong. But yeah. The reason why black decided to just trade off this knight was just because this knight, after something like rook d1, d6, knight c7, would just become so strong. So they thought this would be better, and b4. This is being a really, really, really nice game from white. And now both players, they're just trying to fight for that 6 out of 6. That is what they're hoping for, basically. So they're really trying to fight for that. We are going to go ahead and go to another game, actually, to see how it's going. Over here, we're gonna go ahead and see how Mkhitaryan is doing against Vlad Dobrev. See if Mkhitaryan or Vlad Dobrev, who of the two will be the ones that might bring the 6 home, because that is what we're looking for. We're looking for all of those full points. We can see that Mkhitaryan has a lot of more time and also seems to have a really good position with some really active pieces. This pawn is now gonna fall on e4 after queen was deviated. And now another pawn. This is just a bunch of pawns, everybody. This is just a bunch of pawns falling one after another. This is looking great for Mkhitaryan. Let's go ahead and see who else we have up there. Let's see how Chopper is doing as well. Chopper is also on 5 out of 5 and seems to be having a great position because of these really amazing pass pawns. 2 pass pawns protected together are one of the strongest things you can have in chess, apart from, if you're a queen up or something. But 2 pass pawns, 2 connected pass pawns in an endgame are just one of the best things that you could have. So this is looking really, really, really amazing for white. This is looking really great, and I'm sure that white will actually just take this home. There doesn't really seem to be a lot of things that can be done here, unless this pawn somehow magically becomes very strong, but I wouldn't really think so. So this is just looking really, really, really good. Let's go ahead and go to another one. Let's see how Hikaru is doing against Tennis Master. They're also up there with the 5 points. We're watching all of the 5-point games because this is just so exciting to see which people will be getting the 6 points here. And this is this is really interesting. It seems as if Hikaru would be a lot better because of this pawn, but actually this pawn is not really going to be able to promote. So this almost looks like they're going to go for a repetition at this point. So yeah, this probably will end up in a repetition or not. Look at this. Look at this. I say something, it doesn't happen. No repetition. No repetition. repetition. All right, let's see what happens here. The rook is trying to get to this other side. If the rook can't do anything on this side, well, you got to push it to the other, right? So that is what the rook is trying to do, just, because then this pawn would also be very weak. But you can't forget about your bishop at all. That bishop is very important. The bishop is not really finding a lot of places to go to. And now bishop e5. I think that maybe a better move would have been to just take the pawn on a4. And now, ooh, okay, less than a second. 0.01. Do you see that extra second? Everything is pre-moves now. This is the moment to hold on to your seat, because this is the moment where Tennis Master loses on time. Okay, yeah, Hikaru got the win there. We can see that this is what happens in a lot of Title Tuesdays, to be honest, because that extra second of time is really just not a lot of time. So this happens. This happens a lot of times. This is Vincent playing against Kipia right now. They also have less than 5 seconds. They have very little time. This seems to be absolutely amazing for white, though. This pawn, this bishop, this everything. And this is not even, a time scramble. Well, it is a time scramble, but it's not even a game where the time decides. But this is just a game where, they just decided it was better to resign. We're seeing a rook versus rook, which I'm not really sure why is being played, but they go ahead and agree on the draw now, so it wasn't played. Let's go ahead and see what Chopper is doing here as well. This is the last 5-point game that we have here. So, another rook versus rook. We're seeing so many rooks versus rooks. Are you going to lose on time, Chopper? Chopper loses connection and loses rook versus rook. And I was just saying, why are you playing a rook versus rook game? That's the most draw thing that you could see ever. But unfortunately, I think that Chopper loses connection and loses the game there. That's very unfortunate. I mean, that's one of the worst ways you would of losing a game, especially when you especially when there is all this very little time. So yeah, that was quite a swing. Now let's see what happens in this last one. And we are starting round number 7, everybody. We are starting round number 7. Super exciting. The rounds are starting. We got 4 people that are on 6 points. We got Hikaru, we got Kuparadze, we got Vincent, and we got Fahad as well. So we are going to go ahead and follow those games. So here we have Giga Kuparadze playing against Hikaru. Let's go ahead and follow this game and see what happens here. We got a Karakan happening. Absolutely, I was gonna say absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's just an opening. I want to find a reason to say absolutely beautiful, but true, yeah, this Karakan is great, but it's just an opening. But yeah, this is round number 7. And we can see that here, even though black has this kind of weird formation of pieces in front of the king, it's not that bad, to be honest. It's not that bad, because this bishop is really strong, and as long as the bishop is on g6, there's not really going to be a lot of problems here. So this seems to be good. The king is not unsafe in any way. What is unsafe, though, is that pawn that white captures, but fortunately black has rook c8 and will probably, I guess that white has to go to b5, because otherwise black is just losing this pawn on c4, but yeah, okay, no, they don't do that. They go back to g2. And I think that black will go ahead and capture this very important pawn on c4. Otherwise, the pawn would just have pushed and become a big monster there. So, that was probably quite important. We can see that this pawn is hanging over here. First, you gotta take care of your rook. So the rook will probably, it probably will go to c8 just to double up the rooks. Doubling up rooks is always good, but yeah, that seems to be a good one. Let's go ahead and see what Hikaru decides to do, though, where to put the rook, or if Hikaru decides to take on b2. I mean, it's something that you gotta consider, but probably after bishop takes b2, there's going to be rook b1, the bishop is going to be under threat, and then whenever, you don't really want to place the rook on b8, I think. So I don't really think that that's what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure that the rook will be going somewhere else. I'm pretty sure about that. So, let's maybe move on to, okay, I'm kidding. I say something, It doesn't happen. I say something, it doesn't happen. He took on b2, took on a1, and we are seeing this different type of game here. So I'm not really, I mean, if takes here, then you will just go ahead and take on f8, right? So that'll just be equal material. What happens if you do something like bishop h6? Well, that becomes a big problem. Why? Because if you go anywhere apart from d4, there is this checkmate over here. And this checkmate is going to be a problem for probably the rest of the game. Bishop will have to go to b6 at some point, but we can see that now this bishop and this last rank is just, the king is just extremely weak. So the rook is under attack. You gotta get your rook somewhere else, probably. But this is now just looking extremely, extremely good. Black is in a lot of trouble here at this at this point. So, yeah, this is looking great. This is looking great. Rook a4, threatening the pawn on a2, and now the question is white able to checkmate? I think that white is able to checkmate, everybody. How is rook c1 going to be stopped? Can you see this? Rook c1, how are you going to stop it, Hikaru? Okay, I guess, okay, I guess that this is one way of stopping it, but if you didn't take on f2, if Giga didn't take on f2 and something like king h1 was played, then it was gonna be pretty much unstoppable, or it was gonna be really tough to stop this. But let's just actually go ahead and see what the position looks like now. And now, I mean, Hikaru is a piece down, but this is definitely more holdable than the checkmate of before. Definitely a lot more holdable. But yeah, I still think that this is going to be winning for Giga. This seems to be very, very good. Hikaru does have 2 pawns for the bishop, but one of those pawns is a double pawn, and there aren't any pass pawns. The only thing that white needs to make sure of is that they don't exchange pawns. White needs to keep all the pawns the way they are. If black decides to start exchanging pawns, then there are a lot of drawing chances here. So yeah, that is something that's really important. So white is going to do everything to not exchange these pawns, because if it becomes something like 2 bishops versus bishop and 2 pawns, that's definitely going to be a draw. So it's important for white to not exchange those pawns. Yeah, that was a very nice game by Vincent, to be honest. Very nice. But now f4 is going to be played, perhaps, and that's going to be one pawn that is going to be exchanged. So this pawn on h2 is going to become absolute golden. Absolute golden here. So yeah, that is, we are going to see if f4 is played. F4 is played. F4 is played. And h4 is played to check the king. And I guess that h4 is played just because the pawn wants to go to h5, and then white just wants to be able to protect this pawn forever. But yeah, now they're finding the protection from this way, bishop g4 and then h5. So they're finding the protection from this way. h5 is played, and I mean, this is really interesting because, I mean, the computer is just saying that this should be winning, and this probably, I guess, should be winning, but it's not so easy because the king is kind of cut off as well. So the king needs to find some sort of entrance. But actually, yeah, now actually with bishop here and taking here, that's one pawn. If the king is able to enter this way, because this king cannot really enter in any good way either. If king here, the reason why the bishop is going there is because there are checks there. So king f7, I guess that this king is trying to enter this way. Bishop g4, bishop here. Okay, this is going to be really fun to see. I think that this should just be winning. Yeah, there's just also no way of exchanging this pawn anymore. Bishop here, just cutting off the king in every way possible. But I wonder what happens if instead the bishop just went to the other side, if the bishop just went to f3. But yeah, it's taking a think now. It's taking a think. I think that the king wants to go this way now. That's what he is deciding. And of course, if they're just able to exchange... Okay. I was going to say if they're able to exchange one of the bishops, then it should just be winning. But yeah, that's that. And he goes ahead and resigns because this bishop will just be able to defend from here forever. Let's go ahead and see which other games are ongoing. We got this game over here. We got Timmerman versus Howitzer. That's the one that we got here now. Both are on 5 points, so no 6 points left, but we got both of them on 5 points. Okay, and then that is a win over there that we have. So we're just very quickly going to go ahead and just look super quickly at the format. We got a few games going, the very last games of round number 7, but just to remind everybody that this is an 11 round Swiss tournament, no arena, nothing like that, and just the time that it starts every Tuesday at 7 p.m. CT, 10 a.m. Pacific. Okay, let's go ahead and see what the last few games are. We got Peter Svidler playing this really exciting. Is it exciting? Is it not exciting? I think it's exciting endgame because of this pawn over at a6. And I mean, I think that now it should just be a draw now that this pawn is all the way over there. Look at this beautiful stalemate. Everybody. Beautiful stalemate alert. That was just beautiful. Let's go ahead and leave this game, leave that one on there. That is really beautiful what we saw there. Queen and knight versus queen should just be winning, but they're playing it on due to the time. Let's see what's happening here between Santa Blue and Sylvia's. Beautiful. So yeah, let's just go ahead and leave it on Giga Cooper and we got Vincent there as well on 7 points. So let's just go ahead and bring this one back. And yeah, this just ended up in a win over here. Okay, let's see what we have here. That's a stalemate. Are there any games ongoing? Few more games. Another Grumpy playing Israel Killer. 4 points each. That is what they have. Yeah, we are just going to go ahead and put this on. There we go. There you can see who's leading. I was just taking away from you the leader. But I'm not going to do that anymore. I promise you. Here you can see the leader and everything. There we go. I just wanted it to be a little bit of a surprise, you know? I just wanted you to not be able to see the leader just so that when the leader wins Title Tuesday, it would be a little bit of a surprise. There we have it. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and see what's happening here. 4 points, both by Jerry Mix and Snowflake. Rook versus queen should just be winning for black. Rook versus queen. I know, I was just leaving it for the suspense, everybody. That's what I was doing. I was just leaving it for the suspense. So, yeah. There's just not really going to be any good way of defending it. The rook and king want to stay quite together, but yeah. There's just going to be too many checks, I think. And there's even this passed pawn, so... Okay, queen is going up here. You need to start pushing your pawn. Okay, they're kind of repeating moves. Quite important to not repeat moves because there might be a perpetual, but yeah, but now they go for the push and now there's a check and that's just going to be a checkmate. And with that game, everybody, not with that game, but with this game, this is the last game. I was going to say with that game, we conclude round number 7, but this is actually a very last game of round number 7. We got Fighterman living up to his name and really fighting, being a knight down in this position. But this typically rook and knight versus rook, it should just be a draw unless you really mess up. So here we go. Now we conclude round number 7. We are going to go to round number 8 now, and we got the standings here. Let's go ahead and see who really is leading. We got Vincent leading now. Giga up second. Let's go ahead and follow some of those games. We got Vincent versus Giga. Number 1 versus number 2. They're both on 7 points. They're the only 7 pointers left. Followed by Mkhitaryan and Christopher, Vlad Dobrov. They're all on 6.5. And then we have a whole bunch of 6 pointers. We also got Penguin GM there, who's, I mean, a really extremely strong bullet player. He's also a really awesome streamer. And yeah, I've watched some of his streams and it's just amazing to see how quickly he plays. It's actually just amazing. So let's go ahead and see how he does here very quickly. He's playing against Open Yagami. We've seen him before. But yeah, this is just the start. We'll go ahead and put the game between Vincent and Giga, which is really the super exciting game with 7 points. And then we might come back with Penguin Jam and see if he, wins a super crazy time scramble, which I wouldn't be surprised of because he's just so fast. So, but we'll leave this game on for now to see what happens. This has already turned out to kind of an endgame where it seems like, it seems pretty equal. But it seems like black is a little bit more passive. White has a little bit more of space advantage, and this bishop is not having the time of its life. But apart from that, it seems like it's looking pretty solid. Pawn is just trying to go all the way up to h5, claiming that the pawn is stronger on h5 than on h2 because maybe it will stop any pawn advance from the g pawn. So yeah, this is oh yeah, it was a 50 move rule in the other one. Yeah, exactly. You have to think about the 50 move rule as well, 50 move rules doesn't happen too often in online games, but sometimes they happen. And this is the problem. I was going to say it before. I was going to say that the pawn on h5 can sometimes be a weakness because there's just not really any good way of defending the pawn, to be honest. g4 is not really a move you want to do. So if you're able to keep the pawn on h5, then it could be a strong pawn. But if you just aren't able to defend it, especially if you push it quite early on in the game, then it could be a real weakness. And we could see that it became a weakness here. Now black is actually just having a great time. Rook is just going to be doubling up here on the c file. This bishop is just stuck on c1. Not too many good places to go to. Maybe bishop e3 could be a good spot, but all of the black's pawns is or all of these central pawns are in dark squares as well, which means that this bishop is going to be blocked by its pawn, so it's going to be not the strongest bishop in the whole world. And I think that black is going to get a lot of activity after rook c7, rook c8. So this is looking very good for black now that they got this h5 pawn. A pawn can do a lot of magic in a game. a3 is played to kick this bishop away. Where are you gonna go, bishop? Bishop a5 is actually one of the few places it can go to. Bishop e1 is possible. I guess that bishop c5 could have been played because if pawn takes, there was gonna be rook here. But instead, bishop g6 is played just to kick this rook away, just as a little extra tempo. And now actually what white decides to do is just, you know what? I'm giving away my rook. My rook doesn't do anything. I'm going to go ahead and give an exchange away. And I think that that's a great idea for white. It seems like white just got a lot of more counterplay. They got this pawn on a7. They have this really strong bishop on c6, defended by a really strong pawn on b5. And the question is, what is your rook going to do here? That's the question. You are an exchange up, but what is your rook going to do? Rook cannot enter on the c file. This rook cannot go to a8. These rooks are really stuck here. If these rooks were like somewhere here, then that would make a whole other difference. But now if this pawn is just defender, or even now, look at this. Bishop d6. Look at how the position has changed. The bishop just went... it went from being such a passive position to this position just being such a difficult position for black to play. This pawn is going to be hanging, and I am calling this. I think that this is looking great for white. I think that practically it's a lot harder to play this for black. And this pawn, cannot be defended unless you give up one of your exchanges, and I'm not sure if they're gonna do that. But otherwise the question is, what does black do here? This is a really beautiful game that we're seeing here. Let's go ahead and go to another game. Let's see how Christopher is doing against Mkhitaryan. They are on 6.5. They're one of the few people that are on 6.5. Let's see what is happening here. We got rook and bishop versus rook and knight. Two passed pawns, but seems like this passed pawn on c3 is going to be lost. It doesn't really seem possible to defend this. Maybe something like rook b8 will be played just to defend this pawn here, or this move could also be played. Idea probably is to either go bishop a5 or to activate this rook over here. Some ideas might be to go bishop c5. If this rook goes to some weird place, maybe there'll be some some weird checkmate, who knows? But what the idea for black is here is basically just activate their pieces. That's what black is trying to do. Placing the rook up to b2, trying to stop this pawn from pushing. So this seems to be still some magic could happen in this game, but it seems to be that this is going to be quite solid unless this pawn somehow is able to push. That would be really interesting, but I don't really think that the pawn will be able to push. I don't really think so. So we're gonna go ahead and see how the other games are going. We'll just check in on Hikaru versus Vlad very quickly as well. We got Hikaru versus Vlad over here. They're on 6 and 6.5. So we got Vlad on 6.5. Can Vlad go up to one of those top standings? Is Vlad able to get some points in this game? Who knows? Rook takes f2 seems very strong. Seems like the king is not having a great time. But they're both very low on time as well. So who knows what is going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and... Okay, it seems like now everything is changing. Rook takes g6. Alright, but yeah, it's this... Let's see what's happening here, actually. What is happening here? Yeah, this is just a check. Well, this is just going to end up being a checkmate. Very nice. Rook takes, rook check, check. And then there's a checkmate. Very nice. Let's go back to Vincent and Giga Kwaparadze. Let's see what is happening in this one. So, they still have these 2 rooks versus rook and bishop, but and 2 passed pawns. White is definitely better, but now finally actually black was able to get rid of that really strong bishop, go all the way back, and this actually seems very drawish now. Really important move to go g5 before by black, just to make sure that the king couldn't go up to f5 and become a very active king. You cannot have the king being that active. Gotta take all the pawns you can take. I guess I didn't want to go here because this pawn is more important than this one. And now this king will just be centralized. And this should end up in a draw. So, yeah. Very nice. But now, actually, 2 pawns. Okay. Okay, people. 2 pawns. 2 pawns over here versus 1. I guess you're going to start pushing those pawns. Should probably... I mean... Maybe should be a draw, but I think that this is going to be a lot in black's favor, especially practically. It's going to be really tough to play. D2 before seemed to be a very strong move. How does black or how does white stop all of this is the question. I think that the king wants to go to the other side, and now finally white is blocking the pawn advance. But I think that D2 before could have been a very good opportunity. Yeah, the evil bar is going everywhere because, yeah, that seemed to be a really strong move before d2. And now maybe it'll end up in a draw, but who knows what's going to happen. Who knows what's going to happen. There's still nice moves to find. Very nice moves to find. And f3 was a beautiful move before. f3 deviating the king was a beautiful move. But still there are, yeah, now this should just be winning. You're just going to play d1. If the king goes to e2, there's f3 again. There's the same idea. So that is really beautiful. We get Giga Kwaparadze with 8 points, everybody. Very nice game there. Very nice game. All right, let's go ahead and update the standings. Now we don't have one of those top boards left. These are standings. Giga, the only one on 8 out of 8, followed by Vincent, followed by Hikaru, and a bunch of other people on 7 points. And here we have this one where Ariantari draws. And XDPS, let's go ahead and see which other games are left. We got this one as well over here. Both players are on 5 points, both very strong. Well, IMs and FMs, very strong. And this is actually really nice. This is just one of those positions that is just a draw because the bishop will always be able to come back to g8. Now, if the king was on the other side and the king was on a8 and this was the same color bishop, then this would not be a draw because then there would be some checkmating ideas. But if the king just stays on this corner over here and the bishop just goes back and forth, it should most times just be a draw. But it's a bit dangerous to go too much to the other side. But yeah, this should just be the draw. As long as the bishop can get, get that protection, it should just be fine. So yeah. Ooh! Everybody, that was a bishop blunder. That was a bishop blunder that could have changed the whole outcome of the game. You should not give up. This can happen. And I mean, I think that this is something that, Wittig is going to think was quite annoying because of the fact that he had 25 seconds. He had time to see that the bishop was hanging. Yeah, and this was 115. I don't know how many moves they were into before the 50 move rule, which basically says that if 50 moves are played where there's no capture or pawn move, it ends up in a draw. And yeah, I think they were really close, but this was definitely a chance for white to win the game. So yeah, wow, what an end, what an end, what an end. Here we have the standings before we go off on a break. So once again, Giga Kwaparadze, Georgian Grandmaster, is the only one who has won all the games. 8 out of 8, followed by several people on 7 points. We're going to be following the results very closely, but we're going to go on a break now before the next round. See you very soon, everybody. And we are back! We are going to be getting the very last games of today's Title Tuesday. They are starting right now as I speak. Look at the timing, everybody. Look at the timing. The very last 3 games of today's Title Tuesday. Let's just go ahead and check the standings. We got Giga Corporazzo once again leading, the only one with 8 points. Let's actually just go ahead and follow that one. I mean, we gotta see if Giga Corporazzo keeps the lead, right? If he keeps having a full score or not. Playing against Mkhitaryan, we have seen all of these people up there, but we are seeing Penguin GM joining that top with 7 out of 8. So it's really fun to see a streamer up there as well. Really, really fun. Absolutely amazing chess player, and it especially Bullet and Blitz player. So he's up there on 7 points. There are many people with 7 points. Also, we got Joe Baba, Exotic Princess. He's up there too. He's another streamer as well. So that's amazing to see so many people up there. We're gonna go ahead and see what happens over here in these first few moves, if this seems to be a good opening for Giga or what happens. This started off kind of like an English opening. I guess that Black's main problem here is this pawn in c6, but Black will try to go something like rook c8 and then go c5. That is the idea. And now c5. Even now you don't have to go rook c8 first. You can just push c5 immediately. So now that Black has gotten rid of that pawn, this seems to be really good. This bishop is going to be a strong bishop. These pawns are very strong. I definitely like Black here. I think that if at the right point these pawns are able to push, then that'll be really amazing. White has to do something about it. I don't know if they should have pushed even before, because now there might be a move like e4, and now the push is not going to be as good, because the knight is going to have the square, but 2, the pawn is not going to be stuck on e2. The pawn is actually going to have pushed, and there might be some counterattack at some point. So this definitely seems to be a bit, maybe a worse line of what it could have become, but still so much game left. This e4 was a really good move by Mkhitaryan, probably a necessary move to not get worse in this position. But we are going to go ahead actually and just scroll down to see a little bit how all these games are going. I'm gonna go ahead and go to see how Penguin GM is doing against Vincent, because I'm excited to see what happens here. It seems to be a really exciting game, to be honest. It's very, very strong formation over here. It's really strong knights. But, a pawn that's been lost over here. A queen on b2. Pieces undeveloped. King that hasn't castled. Very, very, very strange position, to be honest. Very strange. And now, actually, this is one of those positions where you kind of, you have your pieces down here. You have your queen up to b2. And you just say, you know what? I've already lost so much time taking on b2. I might as well take another pawn. But he didn't go for that, maybe because he was afraid of rook a1, but it could definitely have been an option to take on a2 instead of coming back. But this pawn is still going to become a very, very weak pawn the rest of the game. So White definitely doesn't want to get into an endgame. Black is going to be better in the endgames, but White wants to have piece activity, lots of pieces, maybe even an attack on the king. You can see that there's lots of pieces that have potential to attack Black's king. So I think that's going to be Penguin GM's idea here. So we are going to go ahead and see another one. I'm kind of excited to see how our all other streamers are doing. We got Joe Baba is here. Let's see how he is doing in this game. Also on 7 points. We'll go back to our 8-point game very soon, but just to see how the 7-pointers are doing as well. So yeah, this is looking quite solid. 2 bishops versus bishop and knight. Same amount of pawns, same amount of material. Seems to be quite solid. Nothing too exciting is happening here. Let's go to another one. Let's just very quickly check out how the one and only Hess is doing as well. No chess without Hess. Am I allowed to reinforce the meme? I hope so. I hope so. This is looking really good. This is actually looking quite tough for Hess, unfortunately. This is looking quite tough for Hess, to be honest. Looking quite tough. king is very, very, very weak over here. There's this pin on the bishop. Pieces seem to just be able to push very soon. Not completely over, but he's definitely going to have to defend. So this seems to be a tough game for him. And is this okay, this is another six and a half game with Peter Svidler. Let's just go back to see how this game is turning between Mkhitaryan and Giga Kuparadze. Very exciting game with Giga Kuparadze being the only person that has 8 points. So very exciting to see what is happening here. This actually looks like a crazy position. Looks like white is completely winning because of all of the pawns over here. It seems to be completely winning all of these passed pawns. Wow, Mkhitaryan is really playing a very nice game. Has an amazing position. These pawns are just unstoppable, and it's even equal material. Like it's not even that he sacrificed a piece or something. It's equal material. So this is just beautiful. Just could not be better, basically. I mean, if you basically say what's the best position I could ever have, then this is what's going to turn up, basically. Now this rook is probably going to go up to e8 as well. Well, it's not, but soon it will. He's just taking a pawn before he does that. So these pawns, I mean, there's another pawn. I don't know if he wants to take it, but you know, you can if you want to, as long as you don't let this pawn promote in any crazy way. But yeah, what a beautiful position, to be honest. What a beautiful position. So d2, you know, just don't let this pawn promote, but I'm sure he's not going to do that. I guess it's something like, yeah, queen f8 is just going to turn, isn't this going to turn out to checkmate pretty soon? Queen c5 maybe? Where's the king going to go? Queen, okay, queen there. No, once again, you just got to be careful about this one. Because there aren't too many checks after, you know? Just have to be a tiny bit careful to not let go too much of the position, which can happen sometimes, to be honest. So yeah. Have I met Svidler in real? I've definitely seen Svidler in different tournaments. I've been to a lot of tournaments. Both of my parents are GMs, so I've been to a lot of different tournaments throughout my life, and a lot of tournaments with top GMs, which has been, you know, really fun and an honor to be able to see these amazing people playing and doing, you know, doing their thing at the moment. So it's been amazing. But yeah, I met Svidler in the past, yes, and I met a lot of other of these GMs, which is really awesome. Okay, what is happening here? Another queen is being made. And I guess you're just going to go ahead and take this one. I guess that the idea was that yeah, I guess that if queen here, there was a checkmate on g7. That was the idea. So yeah, very exciting game all the way up till the very end, and at the very end, Mkhitaryan goes ahead, wins the game, and joins Giga Kuparadze on those 8 points. So here we have the standings. Now there's several people on 8 points. We are going to check out what other games are going on. So we got Bogdan, who's playing 6-12 against Santa Blue, who has 7 points. Let's see if Santa Blue is able to join all of these 8 pointers, or if he's not. Let's see what happens in this one. Very exciting with this passed pawn, which is an extremely strong pawn. I guess it's something like, yeah, I mean, oh, this is just, I know that I said the other one was the best position you could ever have. This is close up there as well. This is maybe not the best one, but this is also really amazing. This is really something you dream of in an endgame. Black can just not do anything, has to, you know, stay here and stop the pawn from pushing, and white has all the activity in the world. It's probably going to end up being a checkmate very soon as well. So, yeah, this is just looking great. We are going to check out some of the other games that are happening here. This is now 2 games. I mean, 2 queens. I guess we got to leave it with 2 queens, because how often do you get 2 queens? But there we go. Bogdan wins, gets 7.5 points. Let's see how Svidler is doing right now. Svidler is doing great, because Svidler has won the game. So yeah, he's doing great. Not too many games left. This is a really cool game that they have, that we are seeing here now, actually, with a rook, knight, and bishop versus queen. Very, very, very exciting. This is the type of game you'd think, or position that you'd think that you'll never get, but you know, all of a sudden you are in Chigalco and Jim Crest shoes, and you get this type of oh, was that a check? That was a fork that was missed, everybody. That was a fork that was missed. That was really beautiful. That was really nice. That was really, 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 really nice. But yeah, very little time for both of them. Extremely little time. We got Penguin GM won actually as well, which is really nice. But yeah, it seemed like white was just winning. Too many pieces to keep track of, to be honest. Especially with the little time. I mean, it's tough having very little time and having your opponent throwing 3 pieces at you. We got round number, I believe, 10. Is it 10? Please tell me it's 10. Yes, it's 10. We got round number 10 starting now. Round number 10 starting now. And, you know, one of the most exciting games that we're going to see. Hikaru versus Penguin GM. Super, super exciting to follow this game. They are both on 8 points. Absolutely amazing. We got Giga, Hikaru, Mickey, Penguin GM, and Nishuk as the only players with 8 out of 9 points. So those are going to be the ones that we're going to be following in the absolute closest. But yeah, this is going to be a really exciting game to follow. Hikaru and Penguin GM being two very known streamers. So yeah, going to be really fun. They play on the regular as well. I'm pretty sure. I've seen them playing against each other on stream a lot of times. So they are regulars in terms of playing against each other. So yeah. We are seeing an English kind of defense, kind of London setup in the sense that there's d4, bishop f4. I mean, I guess that he wanted to go for the London Penguin GM, but there was just this, Hikaru just started doing this b6, g6 kind of setup, so he couldn't really fulfill his London, but a4 is quite interesting, trying to go for a5 and just, saying that this setup is better than if the pawn would have been on a2 and a7 kind of. So now the knight is going up to d2. This bishop will get out. There's no need of pushing this c pawn yet. You can push it, but there's no need. No need to do that. Everything is super well defended. The big idea for black is to push e5 at some point. You want to go e5 at some point. That's basically how black is going to break through and break the center. So you want to go e5 at some point, and the question is just, it's just a matter of when black is going to do that. But that is also why h3 is a good move. A lot of times an idea for white is to go bishop g3 or bishop h2 before black goes e5, just so that whenever black does go e5, that you don't really have to take here, that you can just push d5 basically without taking. So that could be ideas sometimes. I guess in the other position you couldn't really do that, but a lot of times you want to get the bishop down before. But instead, Penguin goes for this other idea of placing the bishop on g5 and just pinning this knight, just asking, what are you going to do with this whole knight situation over here? I guess that c3. I guess that he just wants to get this nice square for the queen. This is a very nice square for the queen. And this knight is probably going to get active quite soon. I'm pretty sure that the knight will be going to some places. b4 is also a nice move now to get some queenside space. You want to get as much space advantage as possible. Because now if you go knight b3 or something, it doesn't make sense because you just get this pawn down here on b2 and there's just not a lot of space or things to do. So you probably want to go b4 at some point. And yeah, I'm liking it for both colors, actually. I think this is a really rich position. This knight will probably have to stay here for a while just to take care of this e4 pawn. Because at some point if the knight moves, there might be some ideas of going g5 and just capturing the pawn. Obviously that's not possible now because of the pin, but g5 would stop the pin. So bishop c4 is played, and maybe an idea is to go b4, maybe an idea is to do something else. I guess that he just thought that bishop on b5 wasn't really doing the bishop on b5 wasn't really doing a lot there now. So yeah, b4 needs to happen quite soon. I think that he'll play b4 quite soon, but it definitely needs to happen. They're taking a little think. Penguin has a minute less than Hikaru. Let's go ahead and just very quickly follow one of the other games and see what is happening over there. So we got Nishuk playing against Mkhitaryan, and yeah, this is another one of the 8-pointers. We are, seeing this position. It seems like black has a great position due to all of these, this big triple army of pieces. I'm not sure that's what you call it, but we'll call it now just because it makes it sound better. But yeah, this is really strong. If you can have, you know, 3 pieces on the same file triple up this way, then it just battery. That was the word I was looking for. There we go, battery. That's the word I was looking for. Beautiful. This is a really nice idea. Going h5, h4, trying to break this defense over here. This pawn is defending this knight, just trying to break the defense, and I think we're joining at a beautiful point. I think there's some nice tactics here. Now this pawn is just hanging, to be honest, and more than a beautiful tactic, it's just about capturing this pawn, either with the pawn or with the bishop, just a matter of preference. Decided to take with the pawn. Either one was really good, but now taking with the pawn, the advantage of that is that it does allow for a rook f2 perhaps at some point. Even now, I guess that would be quite a strong move, so that's why they're taking here now. So yeah, that is this is looking really great, and this, I think, is just going to very soon. Yeah, this just looks absolutely amazing for black. Let's just go ahead and go back to see how Hikaru and Penguin GM are doing in this game. Let's see how they are doing over here. So it's looking like Hikaru has quite a good position. Looks like he has quite a good position. This bishop is going to end up being a monster. We're seeing quite similarly to the other game, queen entering on h3 perhaps, but rook e3 does defend the pawn. So that is not possible. I really want to be able to take on e5, but obviously that's not possible because the queen takes. But at some point, if the queen cannot take, I mean, there could be ideas of sacking, but not yet. That is not something you want to do now. So you're just what black is doing is that they're just doubling up the rooks here, doubling up the rooks just to get another rook into the game. And this is equal material, but it feels like, yeah, it feels like white is really on the defense and black is really on the attack. And that is what you want to be in chess. You want to be on the attack. And Penguin GM only has, you know, a couple seconds left. Even if he is a great bullet player, it's really tough to play with this time. So yeah, 3 seconds versus 30. This bishop, very strong, very, very strong. Yeah, if the queen just was able to get to c6 somehow, then it would be, you know, it would be over. But it's tough. It's not easy to do that yet. And, you know, I mean, Hikaru is getting down there too with the time. Hikaru is getting down there too as well. But let's see if he's able to defend. 15 versus 13. Anything can happen. Now he's trying to go for queen c6. Bishop there is a good defensive move to stop queen c6. What is going to be played? Is there going to be some rook e8? No. Is rook e8 going to be played, trying to put pressure on this whole file, pitting the bishop 9 versus 2, everybody, trying just to exchange queens. But now the king cannot go anywhere. There is a pin over here, and I think Penguin GM will resign. Hikaru takes a win. Penguin loses. Hikaru is on 9 points. Let's go ahead and go to the next game. Let's see how Gigo is doing against Bogdan. Let's see what happens here. Let's see what happens here. So these are right now the standings. We got Hikaru leading. We got Mickey right after. The only 2 people that right now have those 9 points. But they're closely followed by Becca, by Jobava, by Denlas. And we got some 8-point players that can catch up to those 9-pointers as well. For instance, Giga Kuparadze, who is playing this game right now on 8 out of 9. So let's see what happens in this game. It seems as if black is just completely winning due to these pass pawns. Once again, theme of this title Tuesday, everybody. Connected pass pawns are so strong. They are not something you want to play against. So yeah, Bogdan goes ahead and wins, and Giga has had a couple few last rounds. He was leading before, but now he's lost 2 in a row, so he's falling a little bit down on the standings, but we got new people up on the top standings. Let's go ahead and update that. There we go. There we have it. Jobava is catching up. Bogdan is up there too now after this very important win on 8.5. And anything can happen in this last round. Anything can happen. So we're going to go ahead and see what is happening in this game. Let's see if we can find some beautiful positions over here. So let's see if we find some beautiful positions over here. And yeah, this is once again true. I'm just telling you. Day of the pass pawns, everybody. Title Tuesday of the pass pawns. Just beautiful. Just beautiful. Oh, those pass pawns are so strong, but black only has a couple seconds. So it's pretty tough to play against that. But now we're seeing a sacrifice here. Or no, not a sacrifice. I'm sorry, that was not a sacrifice. I guess it was a pawn sacrifice. The pawn is pushing, but I guess that was a good sacrifice because you're just able to... Oh, that was a mouse slip. So you're just... Ooh! Not a mouse slip maybe though, because if you take this bishop, then the king, it's actually going to be a stalemate. So you don't want to... Yeah, you don't want to take that bishop because that would just end up in a stalemate. So that was really nice actually. And at the end, white lost on time, but yeah, they just couldn't take the bishop. And now everybody, let's go ahead and start the final round. Round number 11, everybody. This is the last round. Let's see what happens here. This is the all or nothing round. Hikaru versus Mickey. Here we have it. This top board with both players having 9 points. The only ones in the tournament with 9 points, but we're also going to be closely following the 8.5 pointers because they're right behind. And I mean, they could catch up if this game ends up in a draw. Who knows who's going to be the winner of the tournament? Who knows who's going to be a winner? Once again, it's all through tie breaks, so prizes are not split, but it's through tie breaks. Let's see what happens in this game. It seems as if they're just exchanging a lot. I don't know if they want a draw. Maybe they just want to finish up on a quick draw just to get a really good standing. But yeah, this is seems like they're just trying to exchange as much as possible, but not really Hikaru. Not really Hikaru. He is now going rook c8 and, you know, going for some more exchanges, but going for some open lines, not taking on b5. Okay, I was right about this. They just want a quick draw. Everybody. I was right about it. Let's go to the next one. They finish up on a draw. That's the first one. Let's see how Bogdan does against Becca. Let's go ahead and see what happens in this one. So they're just on move 11. Let's go ahead and put it up. 9.5 points. They will be. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the reason why they want the draw, of course, was because you guys cannot really see there, but oh, maybe not. Okay, well, we'll actually have to see because they've played 11 rounds. So I'm not going to say anything. It all depends on how the tie breaks are. Who becomes the winner if one of these 8.5 pointers win. But we'll have to check that out. We'll follow these games very closely. Exactly. I mean, they were just happy taking it in the lead because, you know, they will end up being one of top 2, top 3 players no matter what, basically. So they're very happy about that. So here we have a game where we have an early rook lift. And I have to say, these early rook lifts sometimes look a little bit like, you know, the rook is kind of in a not, you know, its most optimal spot. But these rook lifts are really good a lot of times because these rooks can become very active all the way from the beginning of the game. And it feels like white is going to be getting a really active position. As soon as they get this bishop out, this rook is going to come out as well. And they're going to get a very active position. So this is actually really, really nice. And also nice that they're, you know, taking with the rook to not destroy the pawn structure. So that is looking good. Let's go ahead and very, you know, closely follow the next one as well. We got Denlas playing right now against Exotic Princess, aka Joe Bava. So yeah, we got this game over here. Joe Bava is having a great title Tuesday, 8.5 points. Let's see how this is looking. It seems like white is maybe a little bit better simply because of all the piece activity. There's all these different types of pins over here. The king doesn't have the easiest time in the world to go somewhere either. You can't really, I'm not sure if you can castle, but it makes sense to go rook g8 first just to get away from this pin over here. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Anything could happen here. There is a lot of potential for this knight as well to become a strong knight. Something like perhaps at some point 94 could be a good move. But first, you exchange the good pieces of white. White has a great piece on d4, so bishop c5 just to exchange that good piece. Now, even if white perhaps has the knights are a bit better, the rooks are going to be coming in and getting connected, and this definitely feels like something that is holdable, even though white might be a little bit better. Oh, wait a second. Oh, wait. Yeah. So, okay. I actually didn't really realize that. I actually didn't really realize that this is actually a piece for 3 pawns. That's, wow. Sometimes, one piece just kind of slips away from your sight. slips away from your sight sometimes, one little piece, but yeah. It is 3 pawns for a piece. That's actually quite a, I mean, even if, you know, theoretically it should be equal, I mean, it's quite an imbalance being a piece down for 3 pawns. It's, in a way, it does change the whole position. So yeah, it's, in a way, I guess that black wants to try to exchange as many pieces as possible, because then the pawns are going to become a lot stronger. Right now, pieces are quite strong, but if you're able to exchange down all of the pieces, then the pawns are going to become very strong in the endgame. So yeah, that is probably what black is trying to do. But maybe black is also trying to double up here on the g file. I think that rook g8, rook g6 could be could be a great idea for black. So rook e1, threat is to take on f5. That's why the king goes to f6. Active king for black. Very active king. And the king goes to g7. Okay, so that's where the king is going. And now he's trying to get this knight up to g3 just because he wants to be able to push h5. But he's a little bit faster, black. It's putting all the pressure in the world onto this h4 pawn. And now actually you can capture it. So if white would just have been one move faster, then they would have the time to go h5, but they weren't really able to do that. So yeah, seems to be, this is going to be a really interesting endgame. And now that, you know, all the pieces or so many pieces have been exchanged, now it's different. Now it definitely is different. This rook is active, a4, just trying to exchange as much as possible. Good move. You cannot, yeah. Putting just putting a little bit more of pressure or just a little bit more of defense on b3. So yeah, I think that anything could happen in this game, but I'm starting to like black more and more for every move. a3 is quite a statement, a3. But the idea of a3 is to get the rook in and trying to get this pawn on a2. If black is able to take the pawn on a2, then, you know, then that will just be really amazing for black, because they will just have this pawn that's super close to promoting. So that's the plan, basically. That's the plan. Anyways, let's go ahead and see how the other games are going. Do we have Bogdan playing? No, we don't. That game has finished. And Bogdan won that game, catching up with 9.5 points, but the tiebreak seems to be a lot better for both Hikaru and Mickey. So yeah, but we got the standings updated there, and then we have Jabava, Denlas, and Becca right behind. So let's see what happens now. This now just seems to be quite good for black. There's this big, massive pawns. This, if it's calculated, it's basically pretty much winning for black. Pretty much if it's well calculated. B5 seems to be an interesting move, getting the knight away from here. B5 is played, and now they have all of these pawn pushes, and B4 was played very quickly, but now the knight can come back to C4. So the question is, was it better to push one of these pawns before the knight could go there, or was it not? And now this kind of seems like white is able to sort of solidify and get the king back and get the knight working as well. So this kind of seems like now that black is just a piece. I mean, obviously black has the pawns, but seems like, yeah, definitely seems like has 2 pawns, but definitely seems like this should now be a lot better for white. The pawns are blocked, the pawns cannot push, and unless there's a blunder, I think this is just going to be winning for white now. So it didn't really work out, and that is the thing about sacrificing, you know, a piece in an endgame like this, that it has to be super well calculated, because otherwise it just ends up losing. So what black wants to do is just obviously to get these 2 pawns. If black is able to get the pawns, then it's just a draw, but I don't think it's in time. Black will probably be in time to take this pawn, but yeah, not the other one. King will go up here, and there's almost gonna be a 6-1. What is? Ooh! Everybody! Anything can happen in chess! Anything can happen in chess! Look at this pass pawn! This pass pawn is saving everything! We got a blunder! We got a blunder here by white. which happens with 3 seconds on the clock. Anything can happen in chess, everybody. And now we are going to be getting opposition. This is just going to be a draw. King c6. They're just going to check if they mess up, but you just gotta go for opposition. That's what you gotta do. King up here, you go here. King up there, you go there. Pawn, pawn. Okay, and now you just go back and you just wait to see what white does. And now you just go back and then that's a draw. And this ends up being a draw between Denlas and Jobava. And I have to say, Denlas seems to be quite, I don't know how old Denlas is. He seems to be quite young there. Oh, but yeah, that was a really cool game and a really nice save at the very end. Really, really, really nice save. Let's go ahead and see what other games are happening. Very few games left. Very, very, very few games left. These are the standings. Hikaru, Mickey, and Bogdan are the only ones with 9.5 points, followed by Giga, who was able to win the last game and get at least on the top 5 there. Giga, Vincent, Jobava, Howitzer, Penguin GM. These are the standings right now. So let's just follow the very last games of Title Tuesday. Let's just follow the very, very last games of this Title Tuesday. Just, just for the chess, just to see some awesome chess. This is a rook down, so this should probably just be winning now for black. But this is looking amazing. A 7.5 pointer game, basically. 7.5 pointer game. So, okay. What is happening over here? Chat. What is happening over here? This is just changing. The moment that I say that it's over, it's not over. There was also a knight check that was winning the rook, I believe. But the moment that I say that it's over, it's not over. That's why commentators are needed, just for just for different things to happen. Yeah, this is, practically it's tough, obviously a lot tougher to play with the knight, but it probably should be a draw. But it's a lot tougher to play with the knight, obviously. So, but rook versus knight is typically most times just a draw, unless there's a blunder or anything. But yeah, as long as you don't let the king and rook push you down, it should just be fine. That's why we're seeing all of these checks. So as long as there aren't these as long as the king is able to go up, and after king goes here that there are checks and stuff, it should just be fine. So, yeah. Okay, is this the last game? Is this the last game of Title Tuesday? No, this is the second to last game of Title Tuesday, everybody. Second to last game. So, just gotta be careful that you don't blunder, and you do, and the moment where I say that, you do. Because, well, yeah, that is how it ends. Anything can always happen, everybody. We got Hikaru as the winner of this Title Tuesday, followed by Mickey, followed by Bogdan, followed by Vincent, Giga, Howitzer. But big round of applause to Hikaru, Mickey, and Bogdan, who are top 3 in this Title Tuesday today. That was so exciting to follow, everybody. I know my jinx is quite strong, to be honest. That was such an exciting Title Tuesday to follow, everybody. Always amazing to either play these Title Tuesdays or watch these Title Tuesdays. It was a great time. It's my first time commentating this, but it was a great time, and it was really, really exciting to see all of these games happening. And also, this top level games with the time control of 3+1, anything can happen in these games. So just very quickly before we go, these are the prices. These are the prices that these players are going to be getting. $1,600 in prizes every week, and that is because, everybody, Title Tuesday comes back every single week. Every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. CT. That's where Title Tuesday is. And that is when you can catch all the action. So every week, Title Tuesday is here to bring excitement to your Tuesday, which, typically Tuesday is not the most exciting day of the week. So it's good that we have this tournament to follow. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching this and for being here. If you want to, watch a little bit more of of my content, my channel is twitch.tv/Anna Kremling, and that's where we, watch a bunch of chess with this high energy levels. That's where we watch all that type of action. So if you want to watch that type of content, you can just go ahead and check out my channel as well at twitch.tv/Anna Kramling. So thank you so much, everybody, so much for being here with me today. It was so much fun. And I'll see you next time, everybody. Goodbye. Have a wonderful day and week, everybody. Take care.